getting on to match 4 now. We're currently 3-0. And we are on the play. And we are... Yeah, this hand's fine. It's not super exciting, but we've got a preordain to start trying to find other cards that will let us draw into things. Peak's nice and Doomsday's nice. So the Doomsday's obviously not castable yet, but you know we just want to start cycling through our library to some extent, and Peak's going to let us do that. And opponent's on a Bazaar deck, so this hand's probably, unless we hit Lotus, it's going to be a touch slow. And Hollow One is bad news. Wonder if maybe we were meant to force pitch our Dig Through Time, as I don't think we're actually going to get a chance to get that off. So opponent's got a pretty decent start here. Okay. So unfortunately from here, I guess we need multiple cards for us to be able to go off. So let's see what opponent does. So from here, for us to be able to successfully Doomsday, we're going to need both 3 black mana and a way to draw into the pile. We have neither of those right now. Opponent, on the other hand, is developing a fairly fast clock. They're going to crack in for 7. And they have a Cabal Therapy as well. We're not terribly concerned about the Cabal Therapy, to be honest. A mental misstep here is going to take away their therapy, but we're still a ways off being able to win the game. We have 2 cards off the top of my head. Actually, we have 3 that would be able to do that for us. I think we would need Ancestral Recall. Brainstorm would also do it for us. And Gush. So one of those 3. Just because they're some of the only cards in our deck that are going to let us see multiple pieces. Dig Through Time might if we had long enough, but we just don't. Actually, tell you what, after we misstep this turn, so we're going to fetch misstep, Dig would also be possible this turn. So if they misstep us here, so I think we can't dig this turn, but we can dig in our next turn. Because we're going to need the Sapphire. Actually, here I think I do something a little bit weird. So here we are going to mental misstep. Hold priority. So we're going to do it the other way around. It doesn't matter too much. We're burning 2 counterspells on the Cabal Therapy. This is a bit of a strange play. We're doing it to build our graveyard for Delve. Just because now we're going to fetch. We're going to have 6 cards in the bin. We're going to have 2 blue mana. And this is one of our ways of actually hoping that we can try to combo. You can see we're basically dead on board if we pass the turn. So even though I think that was typically a bad play to make, it's the best play that we have in this situation. And I think like maybe Gush Demonic Consultation? Yeah, I don't think Ponder was right there. Although, I guess Pondiff can find us Dark Ritual. So I guess we have more Dark Rituals than we have Thassa's Oracle, so that makes sense. Um, so we actually have a decent number of draws at finding... A decent number of chances at finding a Dark Ritual here. And... I'm going to go for the Hail Mary Gush. And yeah, so we found 3 Doomsdays and 0 Rituals or Lotuses, so that's a little bit sad. We're playing against Dredge, so our sideboard's fairly straightforward. We're going to bring in 4 Leyline of the Void, 2 Tabernacle. We're going to cut a Necropotence, a land. It should probably actually be Mystic Sanctuary rather than anything else. Force of Negation is a reasonable cut here. Force of Negation doesn't actually do a great deal for us. We're not generally fighting over things in their turn. We'll cut a Street Wraith. And I think we can cut a Chain of Vapor realistically. But they do sometimes play Chalice, so maybe we do need the Chain. Maybe we can cut Dig Through Time or Merchant Scroll. So our last cut, I don't think our last cut's super easy here. We actually want to keep a moderate amount of interaction against them. So we keep interaction just because, like, Daze is a hard counter if they go to Force of Negation, our Leyline. It's also a hard counter against the Force of Wills they will inevitably have. And Fluster performs a very similar role. Dredge can play some pretty disgusting amounts of counter magic, and that coupled with a fast clock sometimes is just, they can walk over you. Like we're slightly better positioned in that we can go off fairly fast, and so when they start to burn through their hand, we can usually run them out of counter magic fairly quick and then go off from there. But it's something just to be aware of, and we do want to have our own interaction. Opponent's mulliganing really low trying to find the Bazaar, so this is... The opponent's getting the Dredge curse, unfortunately. Dredge can have some bad mulligans sometimes. We have a Tabernacle in hand. Tabernacle is... It's not game over against Dredge. The Icarids can kind of just beat through fast enough or reliably enough that eventually they'll... eventually it'll kill you, but Tabernacle just buys a lot of time. Opponent's down to 1. So we're actually not in a hurry this game. Flooded Strand's nice. It's going to let us make the most of our Brainstorm, where I think we're going to put back an Oracle and possibly a Doomsday. Yeah, Oracle Doomsday seems fine to put away here. So the reason to put those 2 away is, look, we have a Daze in case opponent tries to Cabal Therapy us. We have another Doomsday in hand anyway. And we have a Tabernacle as protection. We might choose to just... We could afford to Time Walk here. So what Time Walk would let us do is... Time Walk... would let us just see if we can find a draw step. a draw spell to get into our pile, which if it costs mana would almost certainly be a gush pile, and if it's not, then it would have to be, then we could make it an ancestral pile. Instead, we've just opted to Doomsday. So we can Doomsday. Opponent is almost certainly not killing us this turn. There's no Icarids in the bin. And Icarids in the bin are kind of like, they're only hasty creatures, so without them having a developed graveyard already, it kind of puts them in a really bad spot. Like, it was lucky that they found the Bazaar, but I think maybe we should have dazed that Cabal Therapy to protect information in the Tabernacle, but the Tabernacle is also stock at this point, so I don't think it's necessarily protecting much. And he's named an Oracle. He's just hoping that we've got like double Oracle in hand and therefore can't win. But we had an Oracle in the pile. Well, both of our Oracles in the pile. So we're just going to go off here. Play our dude. We're not going to muck about or get funny with trying to cast a Time Walk or anything like that. We're just going to win the game. I'll see whether or not I decide to change anything. Yeah, so Chain of Vapor for another piece of protection. I still think the Mystic Sanctuary is wrong. You can see my weird nervous tick of just selecting the entire library. I don't know why I do that. I feel like maybe it helps me just have a look at the deck in its entirety. And look, we're going to keep this hand. We have Leyline of the Void. We have Ancestral with Daze backup. We have a Flusterstorm to protect our Leyline if we get through, if we get to make our land drop. So we're soft to losing our Leyline if opponent just goes like Force of Vigor on upkeep. But then we still have Ancestral to get us into the game. And and look, now we have a Flusterstorm to protect our Ancestral. So we're just to protect our Ancestral or protect our Leyline. So we're starting to get far ahead. Our game plan at the moment is until he drops a hollow one on the board, I think we just protect Leyline and take it a little bit slow. And we might choose to Ancestral in opponent's turn. The reason to Ancestral in opponent's turn is so that we can dodge. If he's playing Force of Negation, it'll let us dodge Force of Negation. And we still get to hold up Flusterstorm. And that's all pretty good. I think we probably want to brainstorm here. And we might just try to go off with Demonic Consultation, Thassa's Oracle. And we're going to do it next turn, so we can do it with Daze Flusterstorm backup. I wonder if we're meant to ponder here. I wouldn't have minded pondering now I think about it. I don't think it actually matters a great deal, but, you know, maybe we might have wanted a second counterspell. So, notably from here, if they try to fight our ley line, we probably actually just want to let that resolve. Even though they'll take our Sapphire, it'll put them on one card in hand, which means they can't have a Force of Will, which means our combo basically resolves. So the way this works is we're going to put our Oracle on the stack. Oracle is going to trigger. We put Consultation on the stack. Opponent can now fight. We can now Daze, which means their Force will not resolve. The Consultation will. Oh, okay, that double counterspell. So never mind. We were a little bit lucky there, and that we had the double counterspell. I guess this wouldn't have gone badly. They would have had 0 cards in hand and a ley line on the board, and we would have had Dig Through Time, Ponder. Yeah, so we were still in really good shape. Even if Mindbreak Trap did eat the Consultation. But double counterspell just means we get there. So yeah, the Demonic Consultation, we're just going to name a card that's not in our library. Abandon Hope is typically the name of choice. We name Abandon Hope because it's the very first option in the list. It's got a great name, and nobody plays it. And then Oracle's trigger will resolve, and it's game over.